Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica.
And I'm Cole.
Call of Duty is back on top these days with its newest game, Call of Duty World War II, bringing in $500 million with a B in revenue over the weekend. And that is more than Thor Ragnarok did at the box office by lots. Oh, and a game also set a new record for day one digital sales on the PlayStation Store, so it's doing well.
So yeah, there's no doubt about it, the franchise is back on top, but is there a cloud on the horizon? One that's shaped like a Humvee? A new lawsuit from the maker of the military vehicle could cost Activision Blizzard a shitload of money for using its macho vehicles without permission.
The lawsuit we are talking about was filed by AM General, which makes Humvees, and it claims that Activision is using its trademarks without permission in Call of Duty games. The suit was filed yesterday in the U.S. District Court in Manhattan and says that Activision is taking advantage of its goodwill and reputation in using Humvees prominently in Call of Duty games as well as in toys and books.
Humvees are definitely a fixture of today's military, which has used them for more than 30 years. They're pretty ubiquitous in armed conflicts and can also be seen providing hurricane relief, as they did recently with Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area. The company also makes a version for civilians called the Hummer.
And AM General claims all of Call of Duty sales is all due to its vehicles. The lawsuit says that consumers are deceived into believing that AM General licenses the games or is somehow connected with or involved in the creation of the games.
Which might be a stretch, but there's no denying the fact that the vehicles are in a bunch of Call of Duty games. And there's no doubt that the franchise is one of the biggest in gaming since the beginning of 2003. Activision has said Call of Duty sales last year topped 250 million units, with revenue exceeding $15 billion. That's a lot of Humvees.
So what kind of damages are they seeking? Well, obviously the suit is in the early stages, but the money this company is asking for could be pretty substantial. AM General says it wants compensatory, punitive, and triple damages from Activision, which could get really, really high considering how well the games have sold.
Activision hasn't responded to the request for comment, and ultimately resolving the case could take years. A Reuters article says that more than a year of communications failed to end the dispute between Activision and AM General.
As for Humvee's appearances in Call of Duty games, well, it kind of depends on the game. They're obviously not in the newest game because Humvees didn't exist back in the days of World War II, but in the Call of Duties that are set in more modern times, yeah, they're pretty prevalent. They can be seen in Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, as well as Black Ops 2, Ghosts, and Heroes.
In one campaign in Modern Warfare 2, there's basically an endless convoy of them on the road. Humvees aren't ever a main character in the game, but considering the military nature of the franchise, there's definitely a visible piece of the landscape.
Lawsuits aside, these are good days for the Call of Duty franchise. While Call of Duty World War II just released November 3rd, it's already clear that it's a huge hit. A significant rebound after fans have relatively lackluster response to Infinite Warfare.
According to a press release from Activision, Call of Duty World War II brought in $500 million in revenue over the weekend, with digital and retail sales combined. In addition, they said World War II set a new record for day one digital sales on the PlayStation Store, taking the title away from Destiny 2. Oh, and the game sold twice as many units as Infinite Warfare in its opening weekend, a game that Activision went out of its way not to name specifically in the press release.
Activision also said the gripping personal narrative, boots on the ground multiplayer, and terrifying Nazi zombies mode attracted players worldwide, resulting in the highest total of connected users on current generation consoles and PC in Call of Duty history.
Boots on the ground. You didn't think we'd make it through a Call of Duty story without saying boots on the ground, did you? Activision CEO Eric Hirschberg seemed to allude to the change in focus being good for the franchise when he said Call of Duty World War II returns to the franchise to its roots, and the results are incredible, selling twice as many units in an opening weekend as last year.
All of that has been good news for Activision as a company. Its shares rose 4% on Wednesday following the news that Call of Duty is selling well. Analysts were also encouraged by the news. One analyst, Drew Crum, wrote that preliminary sales are trending ahead of our expectations.
Another analyst, Matthew Kahneman with Bloomberg Intelligence, said Activision had a disappointing release last year with Infinite Warfare, so to come back with an opening weekend like this really plants the flag that franchise is back.
So we will see how the Humvee maker and Activision settle this suit. It's not unheard of for a video game company to get sued over a violation involving trademarks or IPs. One of the biggest cases was back in the early 1980s when Universal Studios sued Nintendo over one of its most famous characters, Donkey Kong. The studio argued that Donkey Kong was a clear ripoff of the famous movie ape King Kong. Nintendo, though, successfully argued that King Kong was in the public domain, just like the Happy Birthday song, which meant that they were legally in the clear.
We'll see if the court sides with Activision, but considering how much money they're making with Call of Duty, maybe they'll just write the Humvee company a check and tell them to go away.
So what do you guys think of the lawsuit over Call of Duty? Do you own a Hummer? Does anyone own a Hummer anymore? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your gaming news, be sure to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know.
Does anyone own a Hummer anymore?
I haven't seen one in decades.
Right?
Decades?
I feel like I...
Decades?
Decades seems like a lot.
Decades?
No, I definitely haven't seen one in decades.
How old am I? With Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area. The company also makes a version of civilian called the Hummer.
And AM General.
Yeah.